In boxing, we see many different styles used by many different boxers. Some boxers choose to fight aggressively, fight with power, and throw fight-ending shots at all times. Some fighters box defensively, but they're so skilled it becomes entertaining to watch. Some boxers, though, fight in a certain way that even if you consider yourself a massive boxing purist, you find it difficult to find entertainment value in their fights because of how little action there is when they're in the ring. So today we're going to go through some contenders for the most boring boxers of all time. One standout name that I'm not going to include on this list is Floyd Mayweather. While he may not be as entertaining as someone like Manny Pacquiao, if you know what you're watching, Floyd Mayweather is an incredible boxer to watch from a skill standpoint. He does have some lackluster fights, especially in the later stages of his career, like versus Andre Berto or Manny Pacquiao. But he does have some very entertaining fights on his record, like Marcos Maidana, Miguel Cotto, some of his older fights as a young man, like Diego Corrales, Arturo Gatti. So to me, he's very far from being one of the most boring of all time. Another boxer you may be expecting on this list is Shakur Stevenson. Now, I am aware that Shakur Stevenson has some very bad fights on his record. Edwin De Los Santos' fight broke a record for the least amount of punches landed in a fight. The Jeremiah Nakatila fight wasn't good either. But if you actually look at most of his fights, it's not boring. If you watch the Jamel Herring fight, the Shojiro Yoshino fight, even the Josh Padley fight, he is standing right in front of his opponents and he's throwing hard punches. So while he does have the capacity to be boring, as you watch the video you'll understand just how boring certain fighters can be, especially compared to Floyd and Shakur. Just to briefly bring up some honourable mentions, Bernard Hopkins has been very boring for a long time. The second Roy Jones Jr. fight was famously terrible. You can give him a bit of leeway though, because his most boring fights were when he was well into his 40s, and on occasion he was entertaining enough from a skill standpoint to be entertaining. John Ruiz, on the other hand, has very few redeemable qualities entertainment wise. The Kirk Johnson fight was famously terrible, but at least he was aggressive enough to avoid being in the top 3. Which we'll get into, which is going to take us to our first contender for most boring boxer of all time, Vladimir Klitschko. Now, as a prospect, Vladimir Klitschko was actually quite entertaining, but he was a flawed fighter in the way that he actually threw too many punches and tired himself out, and that's what he learned in his first ever professional defeat versus Ross Purity. So that resulted in Klitschko making a style change. He still fought at distance as he normally did behind the jab, standard rangy boxer, 1-2s, jabs, check hooks, etc. But even though he fixed his pacing in his fights, he'd not fixed his defence, which is what he found out when he got knocked out in the second round by Corey Sanders. So now he had one more thing to fix. He lost one more time being knocked out by Lamont Brewster, but he eventually figured out the famous Klitschko style. To avoid slowing down, he wouldn't throw too many punches, and to avoid getting hit, he'd instead clinch, hugging his opponent to avoid damage.
Сближаться, темп, прессинг. Он должен стараться закончить бой как можно раньше. Кличко большой мастер. Прессингом, психологическим прессингом. И очень важно преодолеть вот эти 10 сантиметров пространства, в котором баражированный кулак, это кувалда, бьет жестко, тяжело. Кличко очень часто...
All these hugs you're seeing from the Alexander Povetkin fight are entirely from the first round, and he dominated the heavyweight division for 10 years doing this style, which is what earns him a spot on this list, which is going to take us to another contender, Guillermo Rigondeaux. Now, I'm aware that some of you sweet science people may disagree with this placement. Just to be clear, when I talk about Rigondeaux being boring, I'm not referring to his older fights, like versus Nonito Donaire or Jazza Dickens, because he was incredibly skilled and very impressive to watch, despite the low pace in his fights. But if you've seen some recent Rigondeaux fights, you'll know exactly what I mean. His fight versus John Real Casimero is one of the worst fights of all time. He's gotten more and more careful as he's gotten older, and the Casimero fight actually has a record for the least amount of punches thrown in a fight. Rigondeaux's 44 punches across 12 rounds equates to about 1 punch every 42 seconds. To his credit, Rigondeaux doesn't clinch, so it's a different kind of boring compared to Klitschko, but there are extended periods of time where he simply doesn't try to throw a punch, despite his opponent being in range, so he could throw.
Nice body shot.
Good job from Rigo.
You see that white stance by Rigo? He's looking for that power shot.
Yeah. The uppercut that's coming from Good job from Vincent. Good job from Vincent.
Good job. Whoa, good movement.
The fact that he goes 30-40 seconds at a time without throwing punches says it all, and that's why he's a deserving contender for most boring boxer of all time. Which is going to take us to, in my opinion, the most boring boxer in history, Lawrence Okolie. Okolie was a cruiserweight champion for about 3 years. He does get knockouts on occasion, he's got knockout power, but that's exclusively when he's versus an opponent who's completely outmatched. So I'd argue that the fact that he's got ability to end fights, but doesn't pursue it properly at all, is what puts him at number one for me. If you've never seen him fight, watch this fight versus Isaac Chamberlain.
Chamberlain, tackle, a big...
Got to be very wary of that right hand.
This is any sweat on the chin, him right up, the right hands of a...
Over anxious from the knockdown. And that can there in the clinch. Attacking himself too easy to hit. He has said in the Okolie to a place where he does in the second round. It's 5 or 6 rounds.
Attempt to Okolie was telling us in the week that...
To be honest, Adam, he ability in the strength, and he had it just, you know, that weight will show Adam. Actually on fight night, he's been sparring, but he, in my opinion, he's making it messy. It's target to find. And
yeah, that could come in. Or in the first.
Left eye as Isaac Chamberlain.
Clash at the O2. The really trying to dominate.
Personal. These two guys, I can absolutely guarantee that.
Berlin had that disaster, and he got through that.
He's going in behind the heavy fling, the other one because of the knockdown.
His hands go, he's on that area.
And saw that night against Waddy come for any fights to stop. Good.
There's the left hook as well, getting close
of Isaac
as well by Okolie. Millen tries to get back with a left hand.
Definitely getting more confidence
as well.
He is 5. I believe they're lucky. Chamberlain can do it. He's been there. He's proven it.
Early still.
Good. Chamberlain dipped low, but that's not always going to be the case. On the inside, in my opinion, a little bit.
To try and negate that.
Much energy. Isaac Chamberlain, this is going to be a difficult.
Just looked at his not going according to.
Is Isaac Chamberlain, Adam, to his own hands? I don't know.
Again, it's messy, it's scrappy.
Steve Gray telling he will throw both guys out if they continue to make this scrappy.
Penny boy.
That's what the shot I haven't seen doing this. He's making the most of the thing with Lawrence Okolie. As a pro, because of it seems to be Okolie fight to get more confidence, maintain, to throw these power shots. When the little guy. Is the game plan to win this fight on
either that or he's a Chamberlain's mind.
Shot by the physical strap. If anybody's tired, he's come up here and he's going to fight that he's
Isaac Chamberlain working him up all this is.
Tonight, he's not had to use it.
Difficult to read.
He has to walk forward. Of course, done this any close. Then he's got. Doesn't seem effective to continue to walk in. But yeah, that's why I got caught here. This is, like I said,
pressures into easy. Keep in trouble here.
A bit off balance. He's got to get close and make that. Even the jabs
to be waiting.
Because he is the size and he looks like one also. Isaac, now that he's doing everything here, it's physical and he's all the way through watching. It's a hard.
We need to answer quickly. He is pretty much everything on his Chamberlain. It's miles. Takes loose on the left break from Okolie. Very effective. As we said, and tonight wants to win fully. All I have to do on Sunday is watch him now. Hold himself on. He was just too big. Too big for him. Too guy. He can boil it. It is brilliant. No, it's not. Showing us. Hands away. Yes, I was good. He has a chin. I like the fast thing. Said he'll give us the knockout done before tonight. Ticked off for Lawrence Okolie. Relentless. It may have been ugly, but he's won, and he's won by a mile.
I don't think I need to explain anything there. I think Lawrence Okolie is the most boring boxer of all time, and that's going to do it for the video. Like and subscribe. Let me know who you think the most boring boxer of all time is. Goodbye.